Why? Why? Why do you guys make me constantly do these deep dives of these Amazon style guitars? Sorry. Okay, on a serious note. All right, what do we have going on? Well, as you guys know, when we do deep dives of all kinds of guitars. And of course, for some reason, I get inundated constantly with all the affordable brands that are available on Amazon and off of Amazon. And I understand why. And I have to admit, that, you know, I never know what I'm going to be getting into when I grab one of these guitars and unbox it and start checking it out. Today's guitar is definitely a John 5 copy, right? I mean, I'm looking at my monitor, sorry. It's a John 5 copy. So obviously this is Firefly guitars, and Firefly guitars are known for, especially over the last few years, making some really good guitars at a super affordable price. This guitar sells for $229. If the big box stores had to carry it, which is Guitar Center in Sweetwater, they'd have to double that price and put this guitar almost at $500. Even though it's feature heavy, it just would be hard to compete with a brand name at that price point. But luckily for you, $229, you're getting a lot of features. Let's go over those features because they're pretty insane. Roasted mahogany body with 2 Alnico 5 humbuckers that are made to mimic the look of a DiMarzio, because that's what John 5 has. You have 1 volume control, a kill switch, which is a cool feature, 3-way switch up top. You have a rosewood fretboard with abalone dots. You have 22 medium jumbo stainless steel frets. You have obviously a mirror pickguard. This is actual metal, not plastic, and it's a 1-piece that goes here. Bone nut that's stained red, we'll check that. Locking tuning keys, and don't forget a roasted flame maple neck. You have a spoke wheel truss rod, which is dual action. You have really nice red binding around the guitar. You have a really cool access point, a carve that's really thin. It makes it comfortable, what we call the handshake. We hold it right here. It feels really good. You have a string through body. This is made in China, which of course the Squiers and Epiphones at this price point would definitely be. Pretty damn impressive guitar for $230. So the question is, how good did they execute this guitar? Features are definitely the win, but did the execution meet up? So let's get into the geeky stuff. Out of the box, how did this come set up? It came set up with the action set at, what a shock, 2 millimeters off the 12th fret, 1.75 on the high E, B, G. I would say the D and the A are about 2 millimeters. So about 2 millimeters. Looking at the neck relief, we're just going to push down here and check the play. And there is no neck relief whatsoever, which would explain why I'm getting a little buzz. And then not up here. So usually when you have a little buzz, and it's happening between the 5th and the 1st fret, that could mean that the neck needs a little relief, especially if the action's really low. It could be the nut, but only in the open positions, and we're not having any buzz. Well, I shouldn't say any. We're not having any buzz in the open position. So this truss rod is amazing, but of course it does come with this tool right here, which is a metal stick. You stick it right in here. You do not need to down tune. You cannot strip this. You cannot mess this up. If you go too far, it eventually hits the back of this plate and stops. If you go too far the other way, it just gets too tight. The only thing you can do is, for some reason, if you were just to forcibly push this, you can bend this. Going back to this shot. Wow, okay, yeah. So now we don't have any buzzing, but did that change the action? And it did not. We're still sitting at about 2 millimeters. And 1.75. It feels like it did, but it didn't according to the measurements. Okay, let's check to see if they sent this guitar with any dead frets. Here we go. Now, there's no dead frets, and why that's important is we just did a video the other day of a guitar that was $900 that did have some fret issues. This absolutely has none. Now, of course, we want to check the fret ends, and the way we do it here on the channel is we use a nylon sock just to illustrate, to show you. It's just easier to test with a visual. So we'll go here, and we're going to call that a 5 out of 5 on the treble side. On the bass side, I mean, look at that. Sounds squeaky clean, and that's a 5 out of 5. Another thing we like to do is just to see if there's any grub screws sticking up or anything like here that catches the sock, and nothing. So we can reuse that, which is nice because, hey, it saves the channel money. This stuff costs money. All right, sorry, I'm laughing. Okay, so fretwork, I just perfect. It's great. I will say this, please, if you bought a Firefly, please feel free to put comments down below, your experiences, if you actually bought one. Don't tell me what a friend of yours said. I've said this before, that when you do inexpensive guitars in high volumes, I don't care who the brand is, you're gonna get, flaws, you're gonna get issues. And the fact that I didn't get any so far doesn't mean that every guitar is. This is one sampling. That's why it's nice to get feedback from multiple players. They are saying this is a bone nut. Let's go ahead and check that. Go ahead and take a lighter, carefully, safety first. Take yourself a little stick pin. Heat up the stick pin. You don't have to get crazy. You heat it up a little bit. And then you try to poke it. I would say do it from the side or somewhere inconspicuous, but in this case, I'm going right to the top and nothing. So what that does is that shows us, oh, it's still warm. What that shows us is that if it was plastic, we would have melted it. So it is a hard material. We should test to see how they did the nut slots. So we want to push down on the 3rd fret and just see how much play. You just want a little bit of play. In other words, just a little bit of gap between the 1st fret and the string. This has none, but that's fine as long as it's not buzzing. And because we just did a little relief on the neck, it probably means we could probably give a little bit more. Given that there's no dead frets and it plays great, I don't want to make any more adjustments. You could give it just a little bit more relief and then lower the saddles. That'll probably get your action down to 1.5 millimeters and play really great, but I like it the way it sits, so I'm gonna leave it. So with that being said, let's get some measurements. Looking at the nut, we have the nut coming in at 42.5 millimeters or 1.655. And at the 12th fret, we are coming in at 52.35 millimeters or 2.060. And the thickness at the 1st fret is coming in at 21.22 millimeters or 0.835. And on the 12th fret, 22.14 millimeters or 0.871. This is a good time to mention that the fretboard edge is not rolled. It's not harsh or sharp, but not rolled, I wouldn't say. But the important part is not harsh or sharp. Let's do the radius of the fretboard. They say this has a compound radius fretboard. Let's confirm what that is. Looking at the front or the 5th fret, we're looking at 9.5-inch radius. And looking at the 12th fret, we're 12-inch radius. So it is compound 9.5-inch to 12-inch radius. So it gives it a little bit more rounder feeling when you're doing chords on the upper frets, and then when you get to the higher frets, it gets a little flatter, easier to solo, is the concept for that. The neck carve is definitely the Fender C carve, and that's exactly what that is, and exactly what that is. So we have a modern Fender C carve, which makes sense because obviously they're cloning a Fender guitar. And then also, I'm sure you guys want to know how much does this guitar weigh. 8.08 pounds or 3.665 kilograms. So not a heavy guitar, not light, but not a heavy guitar, 8 pounds. And if you missed any information so far, or there's a piece of information that you haven't seen, well, I do detailed reports and I put a link in the description so you can check it out, like the fret width, fret height, and even what size Allen wrenches you need for this guitar. Let's look inside the guitar. So you can see we have a basic 3-way switch right there. It's interesting that they didn't use a cheap box switch. This is a pretty decent switch. It's not great, but it's a good switch. And they did shield this compartment, but not the actual cover. Okay, so looking at this, we can see it's a little difficult because of the way it's wired up to get inside. So this is all shielded. And of course, this is a metal plate. So that's your Faraday cage. And you can see right there, it was kind of just slopped on, but hey, I've seen worse. There's a shim right here. Looks like this is a little piece of wood. There's your pickup, there's your neck pickup. And so basic stuff here, nothing really exciting. Let's start with the bridge pickup. The bridge pickup coming in at 14.65 or 66K. And if you hit the kill switch, look at that, nothing, it's dead. Okay, it comes right back and then goes back to 14.65. If we go to the neck pickup, we're gonna come in at 8.86. Now that we've discovered that the features are legit, none of that matters if it doesn't sound or play well. So let's take it and give it a playthrough and I'll give you some final thoughts on the guitar. What we're gonna do now is we're gonna play the guitar. I'm running the guitar through my PV Backstage Plus. This is a 10-inch speaker amplifier with 35 watts of solid state power. It has 2 channels. I have a foot switch here, so it has an overdrive mode and a clean mode. It has a spring reverb. I'll be running some pedals through it at the end just to hear how it sounds with some more higher gain and stuff. We'll start with the clean and on the neck on the guitar, and we'll go from there. Here we go. You know, one thing I gotta say about Firefly, given that I've reviewed now about a half a dozen of them over the last 4 years, the first ones, especially the first one I ever got, the pickups were not good at all. In fact, they were microphonic and horrible, and slowly they've gotten better over time, but I have to say they are getting much better at using a more refined, better quality pickup. This pickup is fine. So, I mean, out of the box, this is a guitar you could just play and enjoy. Let's go to the middle position and we'll see how that sounds. It sounds huge. It has a very big Les Paul, just big full sound, maybe even more fuller than that. It just sounds great. So let's go to the bridge and see how that sounds. That sounds pretty good. Let's switch the overdrive on the amp, and we're running a little overdrive now. We'll start with the neck pickup. Here we go. We'll go to the bridge. And of course the middle position. Here we go. So what I've done is I switched it over to clean, and now I've engaged a couple pedals. I have a Taurus Servo boost pedal going into an LPD 87 distortion pedal into a delay pedal. We'll just go ahead and play the guitar. We'll start with the bridge, see how it sounds. Here we go. You know, having nice features is important, but if there's not a marriage between those features and the execution, it doesn't matter. In other words, has a lot of features on paper, but when you play it, it's not a very good guitar. This was executed very well. And it's one of those things that kind of proves over and over again that when we look at big brands and what they offer for price points, they're not really trying as hard as they could be. Because although they are going to these factories overseas, they are keeping the specifications lower. In other words, they could offer a lot of these features: roasted necks, locking keys, stainless steel frets. Their argument is that it would be unobtainable. Well, here's the issue. This guitar streets for $240. Obviously, if a brand bought this guitar, you could probably see them almost doubling the price of that and then selling it to a dealer, and then a dealer having to cut in a margin. So easily, yes, this guitar could be even made in China, a $599 or $699 guitar. And that's one of the benefits here by selling direct to consumer and just giving you a really good instrument. You are saving a lot of money. Their second argument, which is very important, is that the resale value on these is not very good. And that's absolutely true. Off brands do not have typically good resale value, and in the long term have even worse. However, at $240, you could imagine even if the guitar sold used for $100 and you lost $140, I could argue even if you bought a brand name guitar at $500, you would expect to lose about $100 to $150. So loss-wise, because the investment isn't so big, the loss side of it isn't as dramatic. Although keep in mind, all of this is for you guys to decide. I'm not here to sell you the guitar. I'm just here to give you an in-depth look at the instrument and give you some feedback on it. My feedback on these instruments so far has been, for the most part, they're a good chance. I've seen some people say they got them and had some bad experiences, and if you had, put those comments down below because people could learn from those. But overall, I've had some good and bad experiences with Firefly, but incrementally, they have gotten better every time I've decided to pull the trigger and check one out on the channel. So on that note, I want to thank you guys for hanging out with me to the end of the video. Till the next time, know your gear.